Welcome to Calming Curiosity, where knowledge can be relaxing. Today, if your doctor suggested munching on dried flesh, a tobacco enema, or climbing inside a dead whale to treat your arthritis, you'd probably find a new doctor. A few hundred years ago, those weren't considered outrageous ideas at all. They were real medical treatments recommended by respected physicians who were doing the best they could with the knowledge they had. Today, we're exploring how some of history's strangest medical remedies came to be, why people believed they worked, and how a few of them weren't nearly as crazy as they first appear. So sit back, take a deep breath, close your eyes if you'd like, and just listen. Before we start climbing into whales and doing things with tobacco, let's take a quick step back and examine how medicine evolved. Long before doctors, healing usually fell to shamans, priests, herbalists, and those believed to possess special knowledge. Illness was often blamed on angry spirits, curses, divine punishment, or unseen forces. Treatments focused as much on restoring spiritual balance as they did the body itself. Over time, medicine slowly became less mystical and more observational. People noticed that certain herbs eased pain, honey helped some wounds heal, or hot springs soothed aching joints. But observation had its limits. If someone recovered after drinking a potion, using an herb, or trying something completely bizarre, it was only natural to give the treatment the credit. Because after all, what else could it be? The problem is that many illnesses improve on their own. Sometimes people recover despite the treatment, not because of it. And sometimes, simply believing a remedy will help can make someone genuinely feel better. Today, we call that the placebo effect. Without careful testing, coincidence could easily look like a cure, and once a remedy gained a reputation for working, it could survive for generations. Which brings us to some of history's more remarkable attempts to make people feel better. If you suffered from rheumatism in the late 1800s, everyday life could be miserable. The word rheumatism covered a wide range of painful conditions affecting the joints and muscles, often leaving people stiff, swollen, and struggling to perform even simple tasks. There were no anti-inflammatory medications, no joint replacements, no modern understanding of autoimmune disease. And for many people, years of hard physical labor, poor nutrition, and untreated injuries only made chronic pain worse. So when word began spreading across Australia that a most unusual treatment was providing remarkable relief, people listened. Because when you're living with constant pain, you'll try just about anything. The treatment itself was simple. Well, at least on paper. First, find a recently deceased whale that had washed ashore. Cut an opening into the side, climb in, and then stay there for the next 20 to 30 hours, and relief would be obtained for up to 12 months. The idea, though, wasn't as irrational as it first sounds. Doctors believed the enormous warmth generated by the decaying carcass, combined with the intense sweating it produced, could draw illness out of the body and relieve painful joints. The whale became, in effect, the world's largest steam bath. As for where the idea began, the story is almost as strange as the treatment itself. According to one account, an intoxicated man climbed into the carcass of a dead whale, one would think, by mistake. When he emerged the following day, he reportedly claimed that his rheumatism had miraculously disappeared. Whether that story is entirely true is impossible to know, but it spread, and once newspapers picked it up, so did the treatment. Before long, people weren't just climbing into whale carcasses in Australia. Reports of the unusual cure reached Europe and even the United States, attracting patients desperate enough to overlook one rather obvious drawback: the smell. One patient later described great blasts of gas and horrible bubbles rising around them inside the carcass. Afterwards, they wrote, people avoided them so completely that a leper could not have been avoided more. But as whaling declined and doctors gained better ways to manage rheumatic pain, whale therapy slowly disappeared. Thank God. If climbing inside a whale sounds unusual, the next treatment somehow manages to raise the bar. In the 1700s, falling into London's River Thames was a very real danger. People drowned with alarming regularity, and rescuers desperately searched for ways to revive those who appeared lifeless because modern resuscitation techniques were still more than 2 centuries away. At the time, tobacco was widely believed to have medicinal and stimulating properties, while warmth was considered important for reviving drowning victims. Those ideas eventually came together in a particularly unusual form of resuscitation: blowing tobacco smoke into the rectum. One often repeated account from 1746 describes a woman pulled unconscious from the water. A passing sailor reportedly suggested using his tobacco pipe to deliver smoke into her body. Remarkably, she came to. Whether the tobacco smoke actually helped, or she was startled into consciousness by the invading pipe, we'll never know. But stories like that spread quickly, and in medicine, a single apparent success could inspire decades of confidence. Soon, tobacco smoke enemas were being recommended for everything from headaches and abdominal pain to cholera and hernias. By the early 1800s, experiments by British physician Benjamin Brodie were raising serious doubts about tobacco's supposed stimulating effects and showing that, in large doses, it could be dangerously toxic. Tobacco smoke enemas gradually fell out of favor. As history would later demonstrate, however, medicine wasn't quite finished being confused about tobacco. But that's for a different episode. For centuries, many people believed that the strength or life force of one person could be transferred to another. If blood represented life and bones represented strength, then consuming them seemed, at least to many healers of the time, like a logical way to replace what illness had taken away. The idea appears again and again in folklore and legend, the belief that consuming part of another person might allow you to absorb something they possessed: their strength, courage, power, or even their essence. Vampires drank blood to gain strength. Warriors ate the hearts of their enemies to acquire their courage. And in some traditions, consuming the flesh of a powerful person was believed to transform some of that power to whoever ate it. But historically, this wasn't confined to folklore. During the Renaissance, even respected thinkers entertained similar ideas. Leonardo da Vinci believed that something of a person's life remained in the body after death, and that consuming those remains could somehow transfer it to the living. So physicians put versions of that idea into practice. Powdered skull was mixed into drinks and used to treat conditions such as epilepsy. Human fat was rendered down and rubbed onto the skin for pain, wounds, and other ailments. Fresh blood was consumed because it was believed to still contain something of the person it came from. However, Obtaining these ingredients could be every bit as disturbing as using them. But wherever there's demand, someone eventually finds a way to make money supplying it. Human remains became a commodity. Some came from graveyards and burial sites. Others came from executed criminals. In parts of Europe, executioners themselves became suppliers, selling body parts and other human material for medicinal use. Blood was especially prized when it was fresh. There are accounts of people gathering at executions and paying for a cup of warm blood from the condemned. And then there was the mummy. Ground Egyptian remains became so popular as medicine that powdered mummy was sold by apothecaries and prescribed for everything from pain and bruising to internal bleeding. Eventually, a thriving trade developed around so-called medicinal mummies. There was just one problem. There weren't enough ancient mummies to go around. So suppliers did what unscrupulous suppliers have done throughout history. They started selling counterfeits. So-called mummy medicine began appearing across Europe that wasn't Egyptian or ancient at all. Some were reportedly made from the bodies of recently deceased or executed people, which were dried and wrapped to resemble ancient remains, then sold as the genuine article. But by the 18th and 19th centuries, medicine was beginning to demand better evidence that treatments actually worked. As older beliefs about life force and the healing power of human remains lost credibility, medicinal cannibalism gradually disappeared from mainstream medicine. But the larger idea that one body could provide something capable of healing another remained. Today, donated blood, tissue, bone marrow, and organs routinely save lives. Perhaps more unsettling were the remedies that didn't look strange at all. Some came neatly bottled, with reassuring labels and promises every exhausted parent wanted to believe. In 1849, Mrs. Winslow's soothing syrup appeared on the market, claiming to calm fussy babies, ease teething pain, relieve constipation, and help children sleep peacefully through the night. As it turned out, there was nothing mysterious about its calming effect. The syrup contained morphine, and not a trace amount either. A single teaspoon contained roughly 10 times what was then considered the maximum recommended dose for a young child, and parents were even instructed to give it several times a day. It knocked kids out, so not surprisingly, sales exploded. By the late 1860s, more than 1 million bottles were being sold every year. Most parents had no reason to question it. In the mid-1800s, morphine was an accepted medicine. The syrup came highly recommended, their children became blissfully quiet, and trusted companies wouldn't sell dangerous medicines, right? Unfortunately, many children weren't simply sleeping. Historians believe the syrup contributed to thousands of deaths. But as the dangers of morphine became better understood and concerns about unregulated medicines grew, new laws began requiring manufacturers to disclose what their products actually contained, and Mrs. Winslow's soothing syrup gradually disappeared from pharmacy shelves, which serves as a sobering reminder that a treatment can be marketed as perfectly safe, right up until we discover it isn't. Not this next one, though. In the early 1900s, before antibiotics existed, one of the most devastating diseases was syphilis. Left untreated, it could eventually attack the brain and nervous system, often leading to paralysis, severe mental illness, and death. Doctors had very few options. Then an Austrian physician named Julius Wagner-Jahreg proposed an astonishing idea. What if the answer was malaria? But it wasn't as reckless as it sounded. Doctors had noticed that some patients with severe syphilis appeared to improve after developing high fevers from other illnesses. Since malaria reliably produced intense, repeated fevers, Wagner-Jahreg deliberately infected patients with the disease, hoping the heat would weaken the syphilis bacteria. Remarkably, many patients did improve. The malaria was then treated with quinine, leaving patients with one disease instead of two. It certainly wasn't a perfect treatment, and it carried real risks, but before penicillin changed medicine forever, it saved lives. In 1927, Wagner-Jahreg received the Nobel Prize in Medicine for this work. It's a fitting reminder that history's strangest medical ideas weren't always wrong. Sometimes they were simply ahead of the science needed to explain them. And with that, we've come to the end of today's episode. If you enjoyed today's calming journey, I would be grateful if you liked and subscribed. It is completely free and truly helps support the channel so I can keep creating and sharing these stories with you. And before you go, please share in the comments where you are listening from. I enjoy seeing how far curiosity travels. I would also love to hear about any old wives' tales or family remedies that actually worked for you. It's easy to smile at these treatments today, but 500 years from now, people may look back at some of our own medical practices and wonder how we ever believed they worked. So until next time, stay calm and curious.